As I sit here with a toy dinosaur, I think his name is Rex, in my daughter's closet with the door closed, I'm going to talk about motherhood and how it has unleashed the fire of raising a girl, being a fire myself. My name is Amber Vargas, and I am the founder and owner of Girl Pursuit, and I am on a mission to have every girl embrace the fire inside them. We have some core power traits. There's grit in real life, gutsy in real life, and gangsta in real life. And all of these power traits are acronyms for the word girl. Now, if y'all have listened to my previous episodes, it kind of dives into how I have come this far with my brand and my message that I'd like to share with the world. My mission is to empower and just get my voice out there and carve a little bit of peace for me. I believe that we are put on this earth for charity, to service, and I want to make a difference in someone's life. Let it be yours, let it be your daughter's, let it be your niece's, your student, your classmate, your friend, your girlfriend, anyone that would love to hear empowering words and real, raw stories that can solidify the fact that we are made so amazingly as women. We have been made with this enormous amount of power within us. We just have to enlighten and awaken that fire that's always been there. And I want to talk about how motherhood was something that I always wanted to be. I did not have my children until I was in my 30s. I was married in my 20s. I knew that I had a goal in mind, that I wanted to make sure that I went to college. I finished college. I got married. Then I wanted to make sure I go ahead and try to pursue my career and advance in my career. And I did to a certain point. And then deciding, like, okay, now it's time to have children. That's where my husband and I thought, okay, this is a good time to start having children. Was I scared? Heck yes. Did I know what I was doing? Hell no. Till this day, there's times where I second guess myself and I feel like the most guiltiest mom ever because something went awry or someone had a tantrum and I couldn't hold my composure. I could not be a co-regulator the way I have been trying my hardest to be. Being a mother in itself is gutsy as F. And the amount of sheer raw boldness and just the strength that comes from us is mind-blowing. My first pregnancy with my son was not an easy feat. I thought I was going to be all right. I had this like weird thing that kept happening towards the end of my pregnancy with my legs. I would scratch my legs until they bled. Has anyone else experienced that? Because holy moly, I would sit up in the middle of the night and scratch the shit out of my legs and literally gouge my skin. And it would be something that it was like, I just had this, and interestingly so, fire in my legs that I could not get rid of. And I remember going to the hospitals. This was up in Massachusetts at the time, where my OB was. And I just remember trying my hardest to make sure that, I knew all the resources, all the things of possibly harming the child or, trying to make sure that I go into labor naturally and trying to have the baby at the proper time when, because what is it? 37 weeks is full gestation. And if I went past 37 weeks with the condition I was having, which, mind you, went undiagnosed, it literally, all the blood tests, all the things that were happening, no doctor could tell me, hey, this is what you have. It was so nerve-wracking because my husband and I were obviously super anxious, super scared because we didn't want anything to happen to our son. So we risked it. We went along. I actually ended up, my water broke at 39 weeks, actually on July 4th, Independence Day, 3 in the morning. After having the scare of like my legs like gouging out skin and making myself bleed and just uncontrollable itch. And I remember there was this one condition that I researched myself and said, that's what I have. I must have it. And oh my gosh, it says it could be deadly for the fetus if I don't give birth by week 37. My doctors could not diagnose me with that or anything. So I kind of just had to be nervous and just deal with it. So unfortunate. But I did, and I remember monitoring his heartbeat and trying, and we brought this like heart monitor well into the beginning of our pregnancy just to check his heartbeat, because now I'm looping back, and I'm sorry because squirrel happens in my brain a lot and I tend to loop around and talk about random things, but this all comes full circle. The reason why we bought the heart detector monitor was because I had a miscarriage before my son. It was early on, but it was devastating. And we wanted to just be super cautious, and of course the anxiety level was through the roof. And my son is the rainbow baby, and he's amazing. But the journey into becoming a mother, it was so hard. So many things that I learned after having him. I literally thought I was so prepared, but I was not prepared at all. It was literally, you cannot tell someone, hey, here's a book and read about it, which I did, or watch these episodes, or listen to podcasts, or, research all the things, but you will never be ready. Not 100%. Because what's factual on paper is not what's factual, what happens exactly inside you and how you feel emotionally and mentally. What I can tell future mothers or anyone preparing to about to give birth is scratch that. Listen to your gut. We are made to give birth. We give life. We do. We give life. Like, this is something that is evolution, that no one can say that you can't do it, or you're not tough enough, or you're not strong enough. You can do it, and you can do it because you have that grit in you. It's innate in us. But throughout my son's pregnancy, it was not the best. So the birth itself was traumatic. There was many things that I thought that I hadn't control of, and I did not. I was trying to labor on all fours, and I remember the doctor coming in. Oh my gosh, I don't know how I got stuck with this one doctor that was on rotation for 2 full days. Brand new doctor, wasn't even on the roster. Yeah, I think you call it roster or something in the system for her employee name, for when they printed out my son's birth certificate, that her name even popped up. That's how new she was. Oh my gosh, she was the most horrible doctor ever. And I'd never seen her before, because you would randomly go in and get checkups with midwives or nurse practitioners or other OBs. And she was brand new. Not an ounce of bedside manner. I don't understand how there's people that work in certain fields and they don't have the compassion to work in those fields. They don't have the patience, the kindness, nothing. Dude, when I tell you, she was the most horrific doctor. She literally, so I'm on all fours, laboring. My labor went a total of 33 hours. Um, my son was stuck for about 3 hours, 3-ish hours in the birth canal, too. This woman walks in and she goes, I can't deliver like that. He's too big. Basically complaining that the way I was laboring, it was going to be unfortunate and not okay or easy for her. I didn't know I could advocate for myself and ask for another doctor in that moment. I was laboring. I couldn't take the pain, got an epidural. I couldn't feel the pushes, and that's where it got even worse. And I remember looking at my doula and being like, I don't know what to do, going in and out of consciousness. It was a whole thing. My husband thought he was going to lose me, not once, but twice. And I'm over here like, someone be strong for me. Come on. Because I need to be strong. I need someone's strength. I also remember that horrible, horrible doctor giving me a self-episiotomy without my consent with her fingers. Sorry to be graphic, but that was definitely traumatic. And I believe to my core that because of what she did and made me do, caused a traumatic birth and caused my son to not latch. And I didn't even know that that was a thing, that he couldn't latch after being born. I thought, like, breastfeeding, you just put them on the boob and there you go, they start sucking. Oh no, there's a whole science behind it. Had no idea. I wish I'd looked into that or something. That was a whole thing. After having a natural birth, we were still in the hospital for 5 days because my son had jaundice then. It was the worst thing ever. Another thing that, nurses coming in and out. I'm trying to nurse him. Being in this, like, fog of, like, insanity of, like, how I've been sleep deprived. I don't know what time it is. My body feels like it's not my own. I've been through war. I have this huge diaper on. I have this crying baby. Bed is the worst bed you could ever lay in. My husband's exhausted. All the things. And I remember being helpless and not knowing what to do and thinking, oh my gosh, I'm a horrible mother. I'm not trying to starve my child. I remember a nurse coming in and feeling his mouth with her finger that had a glove on it, which made no sense to me because how can you tell if a mouth is dry or not with a glove on? I remember kind of looking at her flabbergasted, like, how can you tell? And she just looks at me and just goes, he's dry in the mouth, like looking at me like as if she was blaming me for trying to breastfeed him the natural way because somehow I let them know that I didn't want to have any type of intervention or any kind of formula for him, which I never said or we never spoke of. No one ever told me. I was never opposed to something to help feed my child to keep him alive. And that made me feel so helpless and hopeless where I didn't know. I had to speak up about that. They automatically assumed, nurses change in and out. They have their own shifts. And, I don't know if someone wrote notes like, mom's trying to latch baby, but didn't know that someone might have written like, she doesn't want to give formula. That was never asked of me or my husband. So if I was asked that, I would have definitely said, yes, please feed him. And that's what I eventually did after that one nurse that felt his mouth and said, oh, he's dry. And it's like, oh my gosh, please feed my son. Like, I didn't know that I had to try so much. I thought I kept trying a little bit and it was going into his mouth, the milk, but it wasn't enough. I just wish I had some more guidance or just some grace or someone letting me know, educating me, because that's something that I feel every mom should be taught or told or at least guided, some kind of framework of, hey, if this doesn't happen in X amount of time, you have these options. It's your call, but we want to just let you know, especially in the state that you're in. Being a new mom, not knowing what's going on, not knowing how to handle. And that was really gut-wrenching. Like, I remember just being like, wow, I wasn't trying to deliberately try to have him starve. It was, wow, going back to that moment really makes me feel like more things need to be told up front, and or hoping that this, my little story, can educate a new mom, someone, anyone, about the things that could happen without even realizing, thinking that you have a support system when you go to a hospital because that's their job. They're supposed to help you, take care of you. But that's not always the case. So where do I lead this into? As we have my son, we get home on the 5th day after having him. It was surely one of the most foggiest, dark times in my life. I didn't understand so much of it. I would say upwards of like 90% of it. How my body changed, how I thought, the little that I thought, because a lot was fuzzy. Your brain literally gets chemically rearranged. You are reborn as a woman. You are not the same. You will never be the same. In the first 3 months, again, a dark cloud of unknown territory. Such a learning curve. Such a beautiful, healthy boy. He was thriving, doing amazing. But my maternal health and mental wellness definitely took a turn, definitely took a toll. The thoughts, the feelings, the disassociation at times were definitely prominent. Some days so much more than others. I recall trying to find joy in some days, and some days I was beat. Some days I couldn't believe that, wow, this is my life, staring at these 4 walls and trying to still latch this child while I was also feeding him formula, because of course I had to keep him alive. I would never deprive my child of any kind of intervention to help him grow, help him stay alive. And to each his own. That's my story. Now I know, or I knew later on. I could have gone to donation banks where they had like actual milk that was donated by other moms. Didn't know that back then. I also remember trying to get a hold of a lactation consultant because my milk wouldn't come in, and it was the hardest thing I had done because that was my goal. I was like adamant, and I knew that I could do it, and guess what, guys? I couldn't do it. I eventually gave up after trying to pump over and over again, at least giving him the little colostrum that came out. Again, yeah, it's graphic. You can turn it off if you don't want to hear about it. But this is Motherhood Unfiltered. And I remember just seeing him and being in awe that, wow, I made that. Those little blood vessels in his eyeballs. Yep, getting that specific. And being in awe and thinking and saying out loud, wow, I made that. Every little fiber in his being I made. And that was so dang cool. Like human biology. I remember stating human biology, like how fascinating is this thing that I made this. A human being can make another human being. And I was so amazed. Going back to the times where it was really dark and deep, and the thoughts, there were times where it got intrusive. And I remember feeling so isolated and so alone, because I thought, oh my gosh, why am I thinking these things? What a horrible person I am. What a horrible mom I am. He doesn't deserve that. He doesn't deserve a mom that's thinking all these weird things, seeing these weird things that weren't even there. I don't want to dive deep into that just yet. That could be saved for another episode. But I remember my journey into motherhood for the first time was the most amazing thing that has happened to me, but also in the same regard, the most difficult thing that has happened to me. And I want to let fellow mamas know, women that are planning to have children, girls that are intrigued by how science works, moms that can't have children of their own but would like to adopt, or caregivers, foster parents. The first few months, no matter what, it takes a lot of grit to get through it. And somehow, some way, us girls get through it. How do we have this in us? That's also something that I'm always in awe of. Our strength, our grit to persevere through all of it. And I have to tell y'all, I'm so damn proud of myself because I have gone through it. Not once, but twice. So bringing my son into this world definitely changed me in ways I never expected. But it was just the beginning of my motherhood story, because a few years later, when my little girl arrived, she would teach me that everything I thought I knew about being a mom and being a woman was about to get turned completely upside down. On our next episode, I want to talk about when my daughter showed me what it really means to have fire. Have a great night, y'all. This is Amber Vargas, founder and owner of Girl Pursuit.